Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. Welcome to the Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable. We've got the band back together for the first time in quite a while, the all-star posse. I'm Rob, that's Galen down in the basement. There he is, dapper. Far corner is Chris Perry, the guru himself, I call him, and he's been doing some hellaciously wonderful guruing lately. That is a verb.
Well, this indicates that I was doing poor guruing previously.
Guruing. No, you were doing guruing. You're guruing. You just stepping up to guru. Upstairs with the loud music. Turn down your music. Is the guy in the gold vault, always partying with his money, and it is Michelle.
He likes gold.
He likes gold. Gold. I mean, we're in the mineral thing today. NioCorp. They happen to be a client of Equity.Guru. They're into the rare earth materials, etc. Fascinating stuff. And around the website, as we speak, you will have conversations with Chris Perry on the Gauntlet, with Mark Smith, the CEO, Scott Honan, the COO. They're based in Colorado. They do some cool stuff. And we have a bunch of other stuff going on as well with those guys. Chris will start us off because he just kind of sort of talked to these guys.
Yeah. Critical Minerals Company on their way to hopefully getting into production. They're sitting on the world's, or is it North America's highest grade niobium project, and one of the world's largest prospective scandium projects. If you don't know what scandium, niobium, and titanium are, the very simple way to explain them is they help reduce the weight of steel things, right? So I remember back a couple of years back when everyone was talking about graphene and how it was going to be this wonder metal, and how a little string of it would be stronger than a steel girder. And it all kind of came undone with two things. One, graphene is hard to find and produce. Two, if you made a tank out of graphene and it took a hit to the side, it would just bounce down the street and shake the inhabitants to death. Right. So, you've got to lay off a little bit of fantasy with reality with a lot of these things. But scandium, niobium, titanium are a good way to reduce let's say the weight of a car frame, not to the point where it weighs the same as an orange, but to the point where it costs a lot less to move it down the street. Your batteries are going to get a lot more juice out of the process of driving you from here to Chilliwack and back, and cost reductions, all sorts of things. So the problem is there's not a lot of this stuff around. So in order to convince Ford, as an example, to use these metals as a way to reduce the weight of an F-150, you need to have enough of it around that you could actually allow them to plug it into their supply chain and not run out in 3 months. So there's a very big need for plays the size of NioCorp to come into existence and actually not just help supply a growing need of these metals, but also take away the reliance on places like China as a place to import the metals from. If North America wants reliance on itself to create things like chips, batteries, lightweight steel, they need these sorts of projects to actually come into fruition. And for NioCorp, the question isn't, will they find this stuff? They've already found this stuff. Yep. You've got one of the, I think it was indicated or better, the second largest project in the world in their Elk Creek project. So that's a lot of good stuff. The company has progressed past the will we find it or won't we find it, and is now in the, okay, well, now we need a bunch of money to actually put this together into a productive operational mine. And there is a lot less risk attached to that 100%. Than there is to let's stick some drills in the ground and see if we find something.
I'm wondering just how far along how far along are we at this moment in terms of turning it into reality?
I mean, in order to turn a project into a functioning mine, you're talking about often hundreds of millions of dollars that have to be raised. The documentation that they've done already indicates that this would be a 38-year mine life. So, a lot of time to recoup that money and make a significant profit. And there are a lot of big guys out there, institutions out there, that when you come along with the right permits and PEAs and resource estimates that indicate, if you give me a bunch of money, I'm going to turn it into a lot more money going forward, that process can be relatively easy. But it is a large amount of money. So it's not going to happen overnight. But the process for these guys right now is to just put the pieces in place where that can happen.
Yeah. And I mean, just as Chris said, this is like advanced, shovel ready, right? You already have your NI 43-101, and you also have that the resource, right? The economic feasibility study. So it's just about project financing now, and then it's good to go.
Right. Galen, what's your thoughts on these various rare earth treasures and their impact
niobium
on
and
mankind?
scandium.
You're muted, by the way.
And no, I'm not. You just can't hear me.
Oh, you're not.
Yeah. All right. Now, for everyone, including the guys that I'm hanging around with on the recording session, niobium and scandium and vanadium and all these other materials, titanium, they're these specialty metals that, as Chris said, are really pushing forward the envelope in terms of what engineering is and what we know to be weight in materials and the ability and strength and stuff. But even them, or even niobium, is growing beyond that usage and now becoming a vital component in the creation of batteries, energy storage, where much of where we're heading in the future in terms of the green energy revolution, we need storage because it's not steady. We need the energy to be kept in a certain place so it can be dispersed continually at a steady pace rather than just showing up when the sun comes out. So these things have a vital connection to our society and where we're heading, and we don't have a lot of it in terms of domestic production. And to have a mine with this grade and this capacity in terms of what the resources are is pretty groundbreaking, no pun intended. Now, these guys, as we had mentioned, are at the point where they're about to tip the shovel and start digging in the dirt. They're just waiting for the financing. They've done all the groundwork, again, no pun intended, to make this happen. And this is atypical in an environment where miners are usually going, you know what, we think there's something there. The geology says it's there. We're pretty close to other people that say that it's already there. You know, hang out with us for the next 5 years while we find out if it actually is there. These guys know it's there. And as Chris said, there is CapEx involved. The financing is rather large, but once this puppy gets up and running, the numbers are pretty freaking amazing. And because of what they're doing, the taps will just go on. I mean, these guys will just continue to produce for, I can't remember what the life of mine is. Is it 30 years? 38 years. That's a long production line. That's some steady income to be had for a long time. A great investment, probably a dividend paying investment at some point. I'm not going to say yes or no, but typically that's how it goes. And this would be a great retirement project. It's a no-brainer, actually. Once the money comes in, this is a go.
We're talking about NB, Nancy Bridget, on the, actually, that's my ex-wife's initials, Nora Bridget, NB on the Toronto Exchange, NioCorp, out of Centennial, Colorado. And before we transition to the charts with Rochelle, let me throw this out here. So the U.S. Senate just passed the climate reduction plan, 40% reduction in the next, whatever it is, 10, 20 years. Right. I would think with the emphasis on that program, it's a billions and tens of billions of dollars project or initiative. The companies like this would be like, oh yeah, baby, because we're going to making a hell of a lot more batteries, et cetera, et cetera. Would that be accurate?
Funnily enough, you mentioned government, Rob, because I was actually excited about another bill which passed today, and it was that chip making bill, because now the U.S. is trying to boost some competitiveness versus the Chinese in chip making and semiconductors, because the U.S. imports a lot of semiconductors and chips from that part of Asia, not just China, of course, Taiwan, but a lot of those areas there.
You mean China/Taiwan?
Yeah,
it's going to happen, right? So we can't depend on that.
Independence.
Yeah, we can't
bring Hong Kong while you're at it.
Right. So I say that because currently there's only 3 primary niobium mines operating in the world today, and as Chris mentioned, a lot of these resources are imported from China. They are the largest, if I can bring the map here, the largest exporter of rare earth minerals. And it just seems like now there's this well, let's just say U.S. and China relations aren't going too great right now, and I think we'll probably see future headlines where we see these relations get stressed once more. And to me, with today's chip making bill, it sort of shows me that the U.S. is now planning to move domestic production of certain things that they rely on from China to the U.S. We have chip making, and I actually do believe that rare earths is probably next. I think that government money is going to be looking to develop domestic production of these critical minerals, right, that they get from China, because the Chinese could use rare earths as a weapon in a trade war.
You mean will use?
Well, yeah, there we go. They will.
It's where we're heading, man. China and Russia, that's where we're heading.
What's happening with NB on the Toronto?
Good things. Good things. So if you remember in our previous roundtable, I think it was a different panel here. I think Fabi was there with us, but we were looking at this 93-cent zone, and I did sort of hint at this pattern known as a cup and handle. We didn't actually break that until August 8th, and we just got that break. So basically just 2 trading days ago, and a break isn't everything. I want to see a breakout with big volume, because that can tell us that this move is going to be sustained with upward momentum. And if you take a look at the volume on that day, August 8th, we did have 224,600 shares traded, which is the most shares traded since about mid-June. So I can say that this is a type of breakout that all technical traders want to see, where you have a strong breakout green candle with the accompanying volume. And basically, as long as this stock now stays above 90 cents, we're going to be continuing this upwards momentum. I will, however, highlight the $1 zone, just because that's a very important psychological number. We might see some resistance there. However, if we can break above $1, I think this thing is going to get even more momentum. And the number I'm looking at, I would say in the medium to short term, is actually, well, let's say medium term. I'm looking at the $1.20 zone as the next upside target from this break, as long as we stay above 90 cents here. So we have a technical breakout, and I also think we have positive fundamentals on the macros and the geopolitics for NioCorp to basically, well, I won't say moon, but to continue this uptrend.
It's probably worth noting that even though that the big upward day last week had a 200,000 volume on the day, that's the biggest since June. But June had 750K sell-offs repeatedly.
Right, yeah.
And so for the stock to jump from 90 cents to nearly $1 on the back of 200,000, there's a lot more selling that went on in May and June that brought this thing down from $1.30 down to the 80-cent line. Now, a lot of that downward pressure was because although the stock was up, the financing was announced at about 90 cents. And so, hey, if you're sitting there with $1.30's worth of NB and you can go and get a private placement chunk plus warrants for 90 cents, you're going to sell, right? You'll sell right down to that point. So there was a sell-off over a period. It flattened out to around about the financing price. No point in paying more for it when you can pay less. Now that financing is closed and NioCorp has a bunch of cash in the bank, now it's done the breakout thing. So I would expect that a couple more days of similar action to the past week would be enough to get this thing really cranking again, and then momentum takes over.
Well, keeping it right there then, Chris, you go first. You got $7,500 each, whether or not you're spending it today or tomorrow on NB.
Well, I'm going to go through a few numbers myself just before I get to that, and that is the NPV, the pre-tax NPV of the Elk Creek project is $2.56 billion. The averaged EBITDA over the mine life of 38 years is $370 million. You're looking at $20.8 billion of gross revenue estimated over the course of the mine life. Cumulative net cash flow of over the mine life after tax of $9.8 billion, and 2.86 years to pay back from production start the costs of setting up the mine. Those numbers are pretty damn good. And so I would expect that it's not going to be a case necessarily. You can never say well, they're going to get that money and it's going to go off to the races. There's always a lot of, going from institution to institution. Do they finance it through borrowing? Do they finance it through an equity raise? Clearly, right now, the share price is getting better. But if it gets up to $3, that's a much better place to be raising money. Will they get partners in? Will someone come in and take it off their hands who has a lot more cash? There's a lot of what ifs, but they're all positive what ifs. So right now, with the stock starting to really jump, I don't think we're seeing a floor just yet. I think I'd go in with your 75 and see if you can be a bully at the table and maybe get a bit of momentum going early one morning this week.
So you're saying all in?
All in for me. I really like where it's at. I think having talked to management and understanding the big boy pants that they wear, this is a big boy company, right? We're used to being in the $5 million to $50 million market cap range at Equity.Guru. This is a $250 million company right now. And for mine, the real value, the where I'd start to say maybe it should be is 2 to 3 times that based on what they have and how much that stuff is needed right now. It's a critical resource that we're talking about. You can't just go out there and find rare earths under a rock. There's a lot more need for rare earths than there is rare earths available. And we've been saying that for a couple of years, right? Supply has been dwindling and demand is ramping up. At some point, they're going to cross over and there's going to be price spikes for all this stuff. And being able to access it, period, is going to be really important. But be able to access it locally, that's going to be a real difference maker. And I think we'll give it the ability to throw a premium on that price.
Galen, are you doing?
Well, I like what I see. I bear many of the same views that Chris has just mentioned in terms of prospectivity, profitability, and length of investment. I mean, this is something that's a long-term thing, and it falls right into my wheelhouse in terms of how I would invest as an investor, that I want to see things long-term. I don't give a shit about day trading. Day trading is a joke for me. It's I think it's predatory and damages the market, but that is what it is. That's fine, it exists. So I'm not bothering to wait for any kind of bump or a push or retrenchment or anything like that in terms of where the stock is, because 20 years down the road, the value is going to be up, right? Whether this company takes it there or not in terms of who does the financing, who takes it over, all that kind of lovely stuff, this project's pretty well, I think, a go. Again, no guarantees, but there's a lot of indicators pushing it in that direction. So I'm throwing 7,500 in. I'm willing to bet the baby on this one.
Yeah.
Bet the baby. 2 down, 1 to go. Shell.
You want to ring the bell first, or?
Oh, I'm preparing the bell.
Okay.
Preparing
7,500
the
for me. 7,500 for me. Keeping it simple. I like the technicals here, but I think the fundamentals with the current geopolitics is just very bullish. Like, to me, this is sort of a no-brainer. I'm guessing, well, I'm not guessing, but I'm going to speculate, I guess, that the U.S. will pass laws to get some of these projects going, given what we see with the current chip-making bill. So 7,500, technicals, fundamentals, all positive. I'm all in.
Wow. Ringing the bell in early August, mid-August almost. NioCorp is NB, Nora Bridget, on the Toronto Exchange out of Centennial, Colorado. Mark Smith, the CEO, Scott Honan, the COO. They talked to Chris Perry on the Gauntlet on our site. Read about them, talk to them, hear from them on Equity.Guru, and we'll see where this goes. For Galen in the basement, Michelle in the vault, Chris in the office, I'm Rob. Remember, do your own homework. Do your own research. What we've said is not guaranteed. Past performance, even the most recent past performance, does not guarantee future results. So we can't promise you anything. Please do your homework, and we'll see you on the next Equity Guru Investor Roundtable.